past agenda references there.
No, perfect. Yeah, awesome.
Why would we?
I was making sure we didn't mess up.
Okay, so we are live and we are streaming this for the public to watch as well. In an effort to be completely transparent throughout the budget process. I'm encouraging staff members, people in the local community, anybody that I can talk to, really get involved in the budget process, because I would say you don't get involved when the budget is finalized. Like, a lot goes into it prior to the budget coming towards people and to the public. So we start our budget right now in November, even though it's December. And it really carries through until May. So the majority of our year is working off last year's budget while building another budget and wrapping up the previous year's budget. So as a school district, Joe works around 3 budgets at any given time. But I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. If we can just quickly go around and do introductions, because there are some new faces here. We'll start with you, Carl.
Carl Stein, Chief Officer.
Russ Fox, Southwick School. Steve Delvicina, Collins Select Board.
Signoni, Assistant CAO. And Gail.
Jen Willard, Superintendent.
Joe Tamel, Director of Finance and Operations.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Joe Didi, Finance Director, Southwick. Doug Moglen, Select Board, Southwick.
Headlock. School committee
And FinCom for Tom.
and FinCom and something else.
Robin Gunn, Director. Dan Petchy, School Committee, Randall. Holborn, Granville Select Board Chair.
Art Evans, Finance.
Burnett, Finance Committee, Granville.
Gina Finance Committee, Gina Placek Finance Committee, Granville.
Steve Grabowski, Computer Technician.
So thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you for working with us to try and get a date that works for as many people as possible. So the purpose of this meeting is for us to get together, and I'm going to share with you some issues or some concerns we have as we're already starting to develop next year's budget. And it gives you an opportunity to share with me things that are going on in your towns as well. So, it's, you know, it always works. Can you move it? Because it's
I
not
can't
moving.
read it. I think we're fighting.
I'm putting it down. Okay, so just as a quick summary, one of the main things you're going to see in our budget this year is we had 1 million, a little over 300,000 left in our ESSER 3 funds. We used it to offset some teaching positions. We used it to offset a 504 coordinator. We used it for some capital projects, and we used it to pay some special education tuitions. As you know, those funds will be gone next year. They have to be expended by September of next year, so they will be spent by this June. What does that mean? Currently, over the course of COVID, we have created 3 in-district special education programs based on the needs of our students. Those positions are currently housed in ESSER 3. And so those 3 teachers are going to need to go into our operating budget, as well as a 504 coordinator. So currently it's an ESSER 3, it's going to be moving into the operating budget. The other thing that was an impact on our budget last year, and I think we're up to 4 already this year, is out-of-district vocational tuitions. We do have 12 students who will be leaving either Westfield Technical Academy or Smith Voc this year. So 12 that will be leaving. Already we have only December. I've never had them in this early. We already have 4 who are anticipating going to Smith Voc or to Westfield Technical Academy. So I'm anticipating it being another year like last year where we had 16. We did our due diligence and we found that some students had come back and some students had moved into our district. So we had to do some fine tuning, but we take this very seriously. And as you all know, we are hold harmless, so we don't see any additional state aid except the per pupil expenditure, which usually with the governor's budget comes out at $30 per student. In the past 2 years, they, when the budget has been finalized, it's been moved up to $60 per student. So we're gonna be starting it again, probably with the $30 per student, but it will look a little bit more because our budget was built on 30, we actually got 60. So it'll look like it did last year. You'll see when I talk about it later. Okay. So today I'm gonna go over our student enrollment by town. I'm also gonna go over vocational enrollment and costs. And the big one that's hitting all school districts right now is special education. We're gonna spend, I have Robin here to answer some questions, but we are seeing more and more of our students suffering with mental health issues, especially at the regional school with severe anxiety. We are seeing a lot of our younger students coming into us with very limited preschool experience, and we're getting more and more children with autism and cognitive delays. They are our children. We keep them in district as much as we can. We've created those in-district programs, but depending on the severity of a child, they may need one-to-one support, and that means more staffing to keep them in district. So this is based off of our October 1 SIMS. This is our projected foundation enrollment, not school enrollment, foundation enrollment. Remember, foundation enrollment is based on the number of students who live Southwick, Holland, and Granville, regardless of where they go to school. So if they are school choiced out, they are included in this 1262. So as you can see, we got about another 20 student decline this year from last year. And as I said, it's usually about 20 students a year that we're losing. The one year there was the big dip was FY21, FY22. It was like this COVID year, a lot of homeschooling, but we are seeing that steady decline over time. So what does that mean? What have you been doing? They're going to ask to the school district. So I went back to 2016 when we had 400 more students in our district. So in 2016, we had 162 Unit A staff. Currently, in this year's budget, we have 142 Unit A staff. The interesting thing is, people always say, well, with 20 students going out, you should be able to cut a teacher. And I'm like, well, it doesn't work that way. Well, mathematically, I guess it does over time because we've lost 400 and we are down 20 kids, 20 teachers. So I was like, oh, that is interesting. But remember, we've created new educational programs. So we've lost a lot of classroom teachers, but we're building more specific targeted programs within our district.
So work on your new net staffing. So if you lost 20, you had to reposition other things to respond to needs.
Mhm.
What is that staffing level at that point under your new configuration?
It's one, that's what it is right now. It's the 142.
Oh, that's all people across the
Right now,
not just
unit A.
classroom teachers, programs.
Nurses, special ed teachers, anybody who's in our Unit A contract. Teachers, it's the teachers,
We don't know who
it's nurses, it's your OTs, your speech and language,
Therapists.
therapists, school psychologists, all of those types of people. Yeah, school adjustment counselors, guidance counselors,
Who's not in it?
your paraprofessionals, your custodians, your clerical, and your
Lunch.
bunch and your individual contract. It's most of our district is Unit A. So enrollments by town or school, this is one that comes up every year when we're here. People are curious. So if you look at it at the regional school, Southwick, you are in the blue. Holland, you're in like that rust color. Granville, you are green. And I included school choice because that's another question that comes up all the time. How many kids are we getting in for school choice? So believe it or not, we have more school choice students at the regional school than we do students from Holland and Granville. At Powder Mill, we have 34 and we have 47 from Holland and Granville. And at Woodland, we have 21 and we have 40 from Holland and Granville. We do have a decline you're going to see in school choice because over time, I showed you the decline in Unit A staff. we've gone from 6 classroom teachers at every grade level down to 5. So we can't absorb as many school choice students as we used to in the past. So that's why you see a decline in the lower grades.
Is there a limit to how many you take in? Is it discussed every year?
Every year, and per Chairman Stevenson, we do it quarterly now too. So we look to see where our class sizes are, and if we can take somebody in after Q1, we just accepted 2 more grade 1 students after the first quarter, because we were able to absorb that without impacting class size.
So once they're in, they're in.
They're in,
Okay.
and we keep them. So it was great. We're able to offer 2 more at the end of the first
So
quarter.
are there separate from these numbers?
Mhm.
You have a universe of how many students from the other member communities go directly to other school choice locations, and they have to do it through your at you as ascending district.
They do. I don't have that number off the top of my head. I know we are about,
Just in terms of trying to attract them for the purposes of what the curriculum offers.
right, we're about 2.5 in for every one we send out. The vocational piece is kind of skewing those numbers a little bit. And the new virtual charter schools are kind of skewing those numbers a little bit, because after COVID, more people are choosing to do the virtual academies. And now we have more people going to the out-of-district vocational. So they're included in our out-of-district sending. This is the vocational enrollments by town. This is finalized. This is the exact number of what we have this year. So blue is what we'd like to see. That's our CTEC. Those are students who are in our budget and get a Southwick Telling Granville Regional School District diploma. So the blue are our kids. They play for our sports teams and they go to CTEC in the morning or the afternoon, and they stay here for classes in the afternoon or the morning, depending on their vocational, their grade for the vocational school. The other nice thing about it is it's about $5,000 less to send a child to the CTEC program than it does to send them to an out-of-district vocational school. So there's a significant savings on our CTEC program. So the blue is what we would like to see our kids going. WTA, so Westfield Technical Academy, Southwick has 19 students attending. Talent has 1 student and Granville has 14. At Smith, Southwick has 5 students, Talent has 0 students, and Granville has 5 students attending. So the costs. So these are the actual costs per student this year. CTEC is a rolling 3-year average. So they take your average number of students over 3 years, so you don't see a spike or a dip in that line item. Next year, that number of 15,161, I don't know what that's going to be, but the cost will go down, we anticipate, because the average will be less. Do you want to explain that a little bit better than I am right now?
Well, I mean, I think you explained it fine. Yeah, they take your 3-year, the number of students that you send over 3 years. And that number is what they times the tuition by. So
Right.
while we're at 58 this year, the average that they're timesing the 15,161 is by 58 students. That's been the average over the last 3 years. That we anticipate to drop down to
Right.
55, 54 next year. So they'll take the tuition and times it by 55 or 54 students next year. That's what we can anticipate it by.
That's fair.
So that number of 58 that we're utilizing this year for our tuition, that will go down to 54, 55 next year, maybe 52, 53 the following year, but there's never a significant dip or increase over a 1-year span to the school's budget. This is very, very unique to the collaborative program. Not many collaborative programs have this formula that the state approves.
Westfield Technical Academy, you can see it's 20,613. So this year we're spending $700,842. And Smith Voc is 20,076, and we're spending 200,760. That does not include transportation costs to send our students there. And the transportation costs are not eligible for the regional transportation reimbursement. They are strictly costs. Now, if a child has special ed, you can have additional costs on top of these numbers if they have a paraprofessional with them or something else. These are just base costs. Yes,
Westfield Tech Academy in Smithville, what are they offering that C-Tech isn't?
great question. So most of our students who go to Westfield Technical Academy, they are going to aviation, collision. They are going to electrical. And first time this year, I have someone going to cabinet making, which is different, I learned, than carpentry. If they're going to Smith, it's usually animal science, animal agricultural, agricultural mechanics, and plumbing. Those are the main ones for Smithville.
If we looked at the cost of what one or two of those programs would cost to roll it into C-Tech,
They have, it's not possible. And there's
not possible because of money or not possible because of
Money.
space.
and you can't create a vocational program within a certain radius of another school that has that.
Thank you.
But I can tell you that CTEC is opening up criminal justice next year as a new technology program. And the regional school just opened 2 innovative pathways, which isn't a Chapter 74 program, but they are offering kids an option of staying at Southwick Regional School for the day. And they can participate in the health tracks, which is like a health program, and they're gonna be working with Noble Hospital, and they'll get some certifications from that. And then also a computer science, IT.
Yeah, we looked into this for exactly this reason last year, around the
$1
vocational
million
program.
sitting there.
Yeah, that we felt that we were losing a number of students in dollars to some really strong programs, but how could we replicate that here in Southwick? What we learned with the programs up at Smith Vocational is they are programs that are unique really across the state. They're agricultural programs, they're animal science programs. Very, if anybody offers these. So that wasn't something that we were going to replicate at our school. We did look at electrical program because CTEC does not have that. We thought it was something that maybe we could look into. I know Superintendent Willard has advocated for that over at the collaborative as well to try to implement the program there. But there is a law that there's only so many programs that they will allow in a certain radius. And what we learned is getting the unions on board, the electrical union and the plumbers union on board with these is a challenging task because they want to. The market is competitive, so to have that. So we were directed to look at this innovative pathway program which is something that the state is promoting and giving a lot of money to schools that are implementing this. So last year we received $25,000. This year we have received $75,000 from the state to implement these pathway programs. One is around health careers, the other one is around health IT careers. And we already had a lot of the structures in place with our internship program. And now we're trying to really add some structure around that. So our students are taking classes, but they're also part of an internship program where we're looking to get them some licensures, some certifications, so that when they're graduating from these programs, they have something more than their diploma, that there's some experience, not only work experience, but some licensures and certificates around that as well. We're hoping to expand that, but right now, we want to get these 2 strong and build them up and have students. We hope to see that have a little bit of an impact on the enrollment that goes out to these programs. Superintendent Willard has always wanted to promote these programs. We do not want to dissuade our students from going to these programs. They're important, we value them. But if we can provide an option here at our school to keep the students here as well, we're looking into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the number of pathways that they're offering and promoting is growing year by year. So we have a structure in place that we think this is an opportunity for us to expand on.
Yeah, not every kid's a C-Tech kid.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know, they gotta leave with something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a huge, it's huge.
Out of district special education, as I told you last year, this was, had a huge impact on our budget. We have more and more kids that, were not able to meet their needs here in the district. And we know last year there was a 14.39% or something to that effect increase on this number. So currently, as of October 23rd, we were spending $923,587 on out-of-district special education tuitions. Over the course of the year, we've had to do some extended evals. An extended eval is when a student is not making appropriate progress or having difficulty in our school, even if they're in a specialized program. We send them to a smaller placement, and with the people who work with them tell us what strategies work better for them in a small group. And the intent is to get them back in our district with additional supports if necessary. We go to LPVAC for our extended evals right now for our students who are in grades 1 through 5, 1 through 6. And then we can send some of our older kids to CTEC or LPVAC as well for that, which is a significant cost savings if compared to sending them to private placement for the day. We do have a possible new placement that could impact the district this year. And this new placement could cost $90,000. Not in the budget last year. Nothing we can do about it, because if they deem that this child needs this placement, we have to figure out a way to come up with this. FY25.
I just.
Yes.
The transportation for out-of-district placements as well is extremely challenging to secure, but extremely expensive as well. Because you're looking at times as a single ridership from to and from the home to the school. So there's a significant cost of the transportation for out-of-district placements as well.
Is that within this number, Joe? Is that it? Is that it?
No.
Over and above?
Nope.
That's over and above.
Yeah. So a big number, and I have ingrained this in Robin's head, is April 1st. April 1st is a move-in date. So if a child moves into South Talon Granville on April 2nd, in May, June, and they have an out-of-district placement, our school district is not responsible for that out-of-district tuition for the first year that child is with us. However, if we have a child who moves to another district after April 1st and they are in an out-of-district placement, we are legally responsible for their tuition for one more year, because that's the law of the April 1st movement law. So we have to make really clear, like, do as best as we can to see where our kids are and make sure we are on top of that April 1st number. So if no additional placements, which I also said is not likely, we're looking at a 4.69% increase this year. So that 923 would automatically just go up to 966. And that doesn't include the possible new placement or any of the children that we have received this year. So upcoming needs that are not currently in the budget. At Woodland School, we work with early childhood, and which is the WITS program, and they let us, our school psychologist works with WITS on the transition, so we can see the students who are going to be entering our program once they turn 3 with special needs. And they are already telling us that there are a lot of students who are going to be starting our preschool program with either significant autism or significant cognitive delays, which means we do have the program for children with autism currently in Woodland School. However, a lot of those children need one-to-one support. If there's children with cognitive delays, some of them need additional supports as well. At Powder Mill, we have some students who are going to be leaving Woodland and coming up to Powder Mill who have autism. And so we're going to have to create a program for children with autism at Powder Mill next year. That's not a want to, it's a have to, because of the number of children coming up to Powder Mill next year. In Southwick Regional School, We're seeing an increasing, as I said earlier, so many more students coming to school with anxiety. Not like what we would think of with anxiety, like they literally, some of them can't even come into the school. And more of them are needing small classroom support to the point of we're having to think mid-year about reorganizing teaching staff at the regional school to put an additional teacher in our Crossroads program for 7th and 8th graders because their needs are that great. Okay. So that's where we are with special education. And then just to wrap up, this is the good news. I know it doesn't feel like there was a lot of good news because that's just where we are as a school district, and we take the children that we get and we give them the best education possible. But we also apply for a lot of grants throughout the year that I don't think everybody's aware of. I know school committee member Fox asked me to share this with everybody because these are things that we bring up at school committee, but we really don't, tell everybody about. So out of federal, just so you know, these are not competitive. These are grants that we get every year. There's a Title I, Title II, Title IV, and then there's the ESSER 3 again, that was 1,300,000 that we are not going to have next year. We get IDEA, which is special education, that helps us offset some of our paraprofessionals that work with our children. And then we have the ESCE. I know it's only 16,000, but it does pay a portion of a paraprofessional salary that works in our preschool or kindergarten.
Jen, you say those numbers, those come directly from the federal government to you, or do
Yes.
they go through a state agency pass-through?
So I think they come straight from the federal
Like our
government.
HUD money comes through, DHCD at the state level, but it's federal HUD money, and then we do community development block grant.
Yes.
So some monies, the question is how the monies flow. They flow through other entities. When they flow through other entities, then they attach their own conditions.
No.
No. No.
These are federal conditions that we need to follow.
So they're direct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The state grant that we get annually is the MECO grant. We use that to help offset, a portion of that is used to help offset transportation. And then we have strict other requirements that we need to use that grant money for. Grant money can't just be used for everything. There's really strict criteria that you can use a grant for. But the competitive grants are ones that we just apply for. We used to not be able to get competitive grants because we were a smaller school district and we didn't have, most of the competitive grants used to go to high ELL for urban districts. They are beginning to see the need in smaller rural communities, and more grants are becoming eligible for. In fact, one of our grants that was actually designed for schools who weren't eligible for SOA money, Student Opportunity Act money. So we did, as you know, get a $10,000 grant for the Yonder pouches for 7th and 8th grade. Mr. Trammell told you about the Innovative Career Pathways, $75,000. A portion of that grant is going to be paying for one of our teacher salaries that does a lot with the Innovative Pathways. And so that is a great offset to our budget. The Open SIAD Middle School implementation, this is for materials. The SOA evidence-based practices, this again, we applied for at the end of last year. It's a 3-year grant, and this is helping pay for one of our reading teachers at the lower grades. The Rotary Interact grant is I think it's only supposed to be 1,000. I'm sorry. That's supposed to be $1,000. The Drama Club Mass Mutual Foundation matching grant is $1,050, and the Special Education Training Grant is $14,430. And that money is going to be used to help train our teachers outside of the school day for the new special education eSped program the new IEP forms that they're going to have to use. So we do apply for grants outside throughout the course of the year. And there's potentially 2 more grants that we're in the midst of applying for. One is a deeper learning implementation grant for $30,000. And another one is money to help pay for high quality instructional materials for $10,000. So those are in the works as well. And so I'm wrapping up my portion now. I think if you go to the next page, just that letting you know, as you all know, we do the best we can. We take the children that we get, and it's our job to provide all children with the best possible education. And that's what we try and do here. Any questions? Yes,
You mentioned the autism and you're now working in the Powder Mill. Also mentioned you have a lot of children with autism issues into Woodlands. Now, is there any particular reason for this? So it seems like a spike in my mind that's gonna follow you completely through the school system. Done.
it will. Yeah, it will.
Did they give a little Dave's question there, because that was on my mind. Have they said what's caused the spike?
No.
Or anything? No,
No.
just. Have they changed the criteria?
No,
No.
no, we don't, we don't look at a diagnosis to put a child in a program.
Right,
We look at the child individually. There are some children with autism that are in a regular mainstream classroom. They're not in a specialized program. You're only in a specialized program if you need what they call like ABA services. A lot of the children who are in our specialized program, they're nonverbal or they have behaviors so that they can't attend in a regular classroom. The goal is always to try and move children from a more restrictive to a least restrictive environment and to get them around their peers as much as possible. It's not always possible. But yes, you're correct, they will be, this is. And
Has there
there's
been
no-
any research, I'm not talking locally, but has there research that's been done on what? You're telling me this is not uncommon
No,
everywhere, so what,
That's kind of beyond our realm.
I realize.
Jen
that.
way
said,
beyond my
you
pay
know,
grade.
It's, and our task is to educate all students, so, whatever behind it. We simply have to accept it, but it is definitely not unique to our district, to our state. This is an national issue. Basic education and parenting. But the good news is that it is, even though, if the students are with us throughout their educational career, the goal truly is to make sure that we're including many of them in mainstream general education classes. And I have personally seen students move into that direction and be very, very successful. And really be able to overcome what in the younger years was far more debilitating, to the point where they're highly successful students. So, that is our goal. I have absolutely seen, witnessed, and been a part of that. And I absolutely expect that.
Yes,
No matter what diagnosis someone may have, they are in your total population for per student reimbursement stuff.
yes. Say that again.
They're not separated out and not.
No, they're included in those, but there is like a differential for special education. However, we're hold harmless. So it really doesn't impact our chapter 70. Nothing really impacts our chapter 70. Even with the spike in vocational, if we were not a hold harmless district, we'd get more money for our vocational students. Since we're hold harmless, we don't get extra money for those children. It's because we're already getting extra
But we
money
don't
from the
also,
state.
we don't get any less
Correct,
because of
correct.
the diagnosis.
No, we would get
Okay.
more.
so we gotta work on the parents then, right?
Some of these diagnoses are not parent-based. I know there's a lot of, it's a, I don't know what's causing it, but, I'm seeing it more and more, especially with my, daughter's friends who are having children and they're great parents. So. Thank God. Yeah,
Did the federal and the state grants, other than the ESSER three that you're losing, did all those stay relatively the same, or was there any increase or decrease in those?
minimal decrease every year because of declining enrollment. Minimal.
On the enrollment. I anticipate that the enrollment will continue to decline, but do you have any anecdotal evidence that in 2 or 3 years from now, there'll be a slight uptick?
No,
in
because
enrollment?
I look at kindergarten numbers. And last year we had a really large kindergarten class. We had actually higher kindergarten teacher. And then this year, we had an extremely low kindergarten class, so there's no predicting. There's no predicting. We can look at the census data, and I work we look at the number of children in the preschools around here. We look at census data, but it's only as good as we have, and it's not super
We
accurate.
get the by town census data, or are you talking federal census?
No, I think Steve used to get the by town census data.
Are we unique in declining?
No, this is very common. That's why you're seeing a big emphasis on rural school aid. Because a lot of us have declining enrollments. And I know I said, just because the enrollment's declining by 20, doesn't mean you could just eliminate a teacher because they're not leaving in like a 5th grade pocket of 20. So that'd be great if it worked that way, but it doesn't. So this is a big movement. Governor Healy even put in a director of rural affairs who came to see and speak with all of us at a meeting in Southwick. And this is an all over, but I just want to make it very, very clear that we all need to advocate for rural school aid. The recommendation is that it's funded at $60 million. When it first started, it was only being funded at $5 million. This year in the budget, it was funded at $15 million. Be a long way to go to get it fully funded for $60 million. That is what is going to help our rural districts, is rural school aid and full reimbursement for regional transportation. Besides that, the SOA is not going to help us. If we fund circuit breaker, that can help us. But the greatest impact in our district is rural aid and regional transportation reimbursement funded at the highest capacity possible.
That's a familiar theme every year.
Yeah. This year, though, they funded what, 90%?
Yeah.
90%, highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Ever been. But now they're talking 90%. So,
Regionalization from predicated.
yeah.
Well, do you have offhand the out of district transportation costs?
I had the vocational costs this year that were like $70,000, but you mean the special education ones? Transportation. I do not. Robin, do you know that? No. That's something we could get though.
I'm sure we can.
All right. Can you follow up with Nicole on that?
I'm curious.
Yeah. It's going to be significant because I can tell you, if LPVEC was able to handle it, it would be much cheaper. The problem is they don't even have enough drivers for our regular routes. So when we need to do an alternate placement, even for a short period of time,
You know,
supply and demand, but
It's not part of your contract with the collaborative
It would be.
transportation,
they don't have it. They don't have the drivers to do it.
but it's eligible.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So in the absence of them not recruiting to certain staffing levels, you have to go out and customize it and
Correct.
hire, because we know some
Yes.
people in town that do the gigs
Yes.
for you. They do single driving
Yes.
all over the place, and it's the whole day
Yes.
in terms of where they're
Yes.
transporting people. to
Yes.
and then
Mhm.
bring them back.
Yeah, and they know there's a supply and demand for it out there. So if they're the only people who can drive your child to a setting, as a district, we have to pay for their transportation. You know, it's everywhere. Yes, they are. They are advocating. They've got signs on their buses. They're putting
Oh, I
up
see.
flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're done. We need food service people. They need bus drivers. We need paraprofessionals. We're still not fully staffed with our paraprofessionals in the district. So we're all hurting for labor bodies.
They're offering incentives, and the drivers are taking the incentive and the training and then leaving. So they're trying to come up with how to retain and address that issue as well. So they are doing their due diligence in trying to get drivers, but they're getting burned in ways as well.
What did you say the region, the vocational transportation?
About 70,000 this year.
Do you have any significant capital projects coming this year that you're ready to talk about, Jim?
I'm trying to keep that super low. Because we did ask for a significant amount last year and we were so appreciated that it passed. I'm trying to keep that as low as possible this year to balance out what we asked for last year. There's nothing that is a drastic need right now, so. My goal, unless something happens between now and then, is to come in with a very conservative capital. Sure.
Any idea when your excess and deficiency number will be certified?
I'm hoping that will be done by the end of the week.
We're anticipating it being close to where it has been in previous years. So we'll be using that again to help offset the budget. Anything else? Yeah, Dave?
So I have a question for you. Now, say a parent wanted to send their kid to a program in Academy. They were willing to pay the difference in cost between. No,
No. It's part of our policy and we have a, if it is a chapter 70 program that is approved for LPVAC, then that is by policy where they have to go. Yeah. Yeah, there's no wiggle room on that at all. Because we can't put a child's public education individually on the back of a parent, even if they're willing to pay. There's no mechanism to do that.
what if they have a desire to do that?
That you would have to speak to an attorney because I would say no. I would say no.
So if somebody wants to send their kid to a different school, they're willing to fund the difference economically. They're not allowed to do that?
No. Nope.
And I've heard of people, they just go and establish residency in the community where they want.
That's correct.
That is how they do it.
That's correct.
So what about all this school choice stuff?
Chapter 74 is in school choice. Chapter 74 is completely separate than school choice. School choice is about a $5,000 bill we pay to a different city or town. Chapter 74 runs us $20,000. And chapter 74 doesn't go to the school district. Our chapter 74, well, it might go to Smith Agricultural, I'm not sure. But when our money is sent to Westfield, it doesn't go to the school department. It goes to the city of Westfield.
Yeah, the Department of Town.
Mhm. Yeah. By law, we had to establish a chapter 74 program for our school
So
district.
there's no way if you want to send your kid to a different district, you can do it.
Yes, you can. A different district?
To a different technical program.
Not if the same chapter 74 program is offered at CTEC, no. No.
Chapter 74 money gets sent to the town or city,
Mhm.
not the school district, so it goes into their general
Yes.
budget.
So interestingly enough, I've been doing a little bit research on chapter 70 funding. And I was actually on the phone with Desi this afternoon. Chapter 74 out of district programming is not supposed to be paid by the schools by law. It's supposed to be paid by the town in which the student resides.
That was my next question.
Yes.
Is-
So we are going to be looking into it more, but technically, it's not the school districts who should be paying for, we're the only school district I know where chapter 74 comes out of our school budget. In every other regional school district, the towns, not the schools of the towns, the towns pay for it. The towns have their own chapter 70 foundation. Schools, those students aren't included in our chapter 70 funds. And
Included in your overall number.
they would not be because we are the unique where the school districts are actually paying for out of district vocational. They are currently included in our chapter 70 number. Yes. But
If that switches,
it
then Dave can send his kid anywhere he wants.
probably,
There you
because
go.
your town, you could agree to it for your town. You could.
So is there a distinction when you say that between a town which has its own school department versus a collection of towns in a region, or is it the same?
Say that again,
Well, in other words, you're saying that the town sends it, but that's because,
we're a regional.
that's because if that, is it a standalone town that sends it, or who's not in a region? Or if you're in a region, it would be the community that the kid resides in.
Whatever, I had the law, you can, yeah, you can
It's
look
a
it up.
community that the student resides in.
Yes,
So other
Okay.
regional districts aren't doing it like we are.
We
No.
are
the only one.
the only one in the state that
So
does
is
it.
that-
That additional tuition would go into a separate town education, that tuition.
The towns would be paying for it, and that would come out of
We
our,
don't carry those line items.
you do not, other
We
towns
don't.
that are part of a regional school district do. And in fact, it's their town administrative officer who, but, and they have to provide transportation and set up their own transportation.
Still
So,
worth looking at.
so
So you are pursuing that?
I'm looking at it because the costs are just
Nope.
astronomical. And
How would that
I,
affect the transportation? Now you're sponsored.
the
If you
town
brought it up,
by the law,
and he's willing to look at it.
yeah, I'm willing to look at it with you, Dave. I've been doing, I just went to a conference and I learned about it, so, I mean, I'm willing to look at it. The way it's set up right now, there's no flexibility in it. There's none.
So, and then you wouldn't have to make any more policy decisions, because that'd be a policy decision of each community individually that is a member of the district.
I don't have the answer to that. I just know I was at a conference and I
So is
realized.
that a Dufresne question?
It is, he was on the phone call with me today. And we talked about some things, but, we do have a regional agreement that we need to look at and see what our language says, because our regional agreement trumps the law. So. Yeah, and in order to change the regional agreement, all of our 3 communities would have to agree to amend the regional agreement.
Something they want. People-
Great. So I'll look into it, Nick. I'll look into possibly amending the regional agreement and then,
So I sent you all those emails for the last 2 months was to figure that out.
that, okay, I'll look into it, Dave.
Thank you.
Welcome. Anything else? Yes.
Do we have a, is there a number on out of district special education?
10 or we do 10? It's 10, hold on. Well, those are,
Or we keep eye out.
well, not really.
You want to count eye out one,
Yeah.
2, 3. There's 8.
That's 8.
This
Right.
year, there's 8 current students that are and out of district placements.
So do the math on that. Special education is a responsibility of the
Oh,
school
yeah.
district.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
how.
To those numbers, there is what we get called circuit breaker. We don't get it the year we pay, but there is a formula that you do get reimbursed for anything over the average per pupil, 45,000. So anything above like 45,000, so say we have a child who goes to a placement, that's 100,000. You subtract 45, that's on the school district. The 55,000 is eligible, what they call circuit breaker, like a reimbursement, and it's reimbursed on a percentage basis. And what is it? 75%.
75% of the 55,000.
Yeah,
Correct.
would come back to us, and then we use that, that's not IDEA, no, it's circuit breaker.
Circuit.
But you'll see circuit breaker as a revenue line item, we use it,
Okay.
you'll see it at the bottom as a revenue line item, so we use circuit breaker to help offset next year's out of district special education.
Just, sorry.
No, it's okay,
Are most of these kids in like private programs, or are they in other districts?
2 are in programs in other districts, most of them are in a private setting. Even the ones who are in another district are still
Mentioned the
considered
anxiety
private,
stuff.
yes.
I know, like, I know Westfield's just started virtual charter school. You mentioned kids that go to these virtual charter schools. How does that affect? Does that tuition come out of ours?
So we actually cannot send students to Westfield Virtual School. The uniqueness of establishing a virtual school,
That's-
it's only open to residents of that town. So not even school choice kids could attend that school. We have students who attend the Greenfield Virtual and TECA. So there's two that are like a charter school, but they're not, but they are. And so our students stay at home, but they attend one of those two programs.
I was just curious if
Virtually.
there was something that it becomes more prevalent, which it seems to be.
It seems to be.
Is there a benefit to making it like an in-house virtual
The-
program, not necessarily at schools?
So, for us, so one of the unique things with special education is if we have a child who really does have severe anxiety, like if they provide special education with a medical note, we can provide a child with a virtual education and send a tutor or somebody to their home if that's what their doctor recommends. But it's a very unique case. But we do have options for people who are in that situation.
I'm just curious because as you said, it's getting much more
It
prevalent.
is.
And I'm sure that's gonna be an additional cost that's going to be starting to add up. I was just curious if there's a way to start, I mean, you just said there is. Or we could do a virtual program, because it sounds that if you send someone to a virtual tech school or virtual charter school, you're obviously paying them money to,
Mhm.
but, I'm just curious about keeping that savings in-house,
The
so.
The tricky thing was when they were putting out that virtual school, it has to be its like own school. It has to have its own
Yeah,
principal, it
principal,
has to have its own
security.
school ID number, it has to have like everything, so it's not as simple as just putting it in as like a classroom
That's
at
what I
the
was wondering,
like,
well,
yeah,
do we have to see our own
its own
virtual
school, yeah.
Is that a higher degree of approval than a typical superintendent approving a homeschool child?
The state would have to approve it.
That one,
The virtual school, if you created it, oh yeah, it's a big state.
right, but I mean the fact that you send these people to this other one on a tuition.
It's just like a school choice. They apply, if they get in, they go. You can cap it. I think it's like at 2%. We've never had the need to do that. It's not as significant as it is
No,
in
we
other
made it.
communities. Right. We're just seeing an uptick in it since COVID. They're all great questions. Hey, Rob.
I'm sorry, I'm like, guys, I've been listening.
Well, if there's nothing else, I thank you all for coming. We are going to, as I said, try and be as conservative as we can with the capital this year. We are so appreciative of the funding for our new network, our ONTs, and still haven't purchased the van, but we anticipate doing it shortly. And we thank you for your support every year and understanding that doing the best we can for your children. And we'll promise to do that again this year. Thank you.
And I think it would be appropriate if we heard from any of the townspeople.
Oh, sure.
that representatives from the towns, if they have in their own budgets, any needs or concerns that we should.
You will. Still leading finance committee.
No.
So to come